Okay, let's get into it. Just want to go over my pre-market game plan going into tomorrow, and then I'll do a session recap of today. So as always, let's keep this quick, clean, and easy. So today was a good day. If you've been, learning from me and taking the things that I'm trying to teach you, if you understand market structure, today was a really good day, especially on the Qs. I'll get into that in a bit. What do we do today? We filled the gap. There's no coincidence that we filled this gap and then buyer stepped in, filled the gap. So super solid day on the overall market. Like I said, whenever we have pullback days in the overall market and we're bullish buys and we're trending, I don't see it as, oh no, it's a bearish day. I see it as, okay, I'm just going to sit on my hands and wait for the highest probability setup on the pullbacks. And that's exactly what we got across the board today. So it's been a fairly slow week for me. And the reason for that being, I'll explain a little bit more thoroughly here on the Qs. It's just because, remember, we started this week off with a gap up. This was a gap, right? This is Monday, and then Tuesday we moved even higher, and then even Wednesday we moved even higher. So that being said, we started this week with a gap up, but for 3 days we kind of just sat in a channel, especially on the Qs. I'll show you that in a sec. We just sat in a channel, so we can expect lack of follow through and continuation on these tech names when the overall market itself is sitting in a range. So let's go here on the intraday, right? There's no coincidence that buyers are starting to step up here, power hour, and defending the 673. Now remember, I've been saying this. I know I know a handful of people made a lot of money last week on this 673. This is really our key level. Remember this, I've been saying this for like over a week. This is the dip buy. So tomorrow, my A plus opportunity is over 673. If that sets up on the spot, I'm taking that shot. Right, today we did our objective. We filled this gap. That's a solid day. We filled the gap. So break and retest 673, targeting top of this range. That's solid. You can see we're stair stepping. And this, right, this is the dip buy. This 673 is the dip buy. So I'm looking for this. I feel like I never really got a solid break and retest over this key level. Even last week we gapped above. This week we gapped above. You see what I mean here? So that being said, 673 is really still the main watch for me on SPY. This is the dip buy. So if this sets up tomorrow and the price action's clean, I really will be looking for a possible swing trade on that. So we shall see going into tomorrow. But today was a good day. The overall market filled this gap. It was pulling back. The trend is your friend. The dip is your best friend. And that's what we saw today. So finally, we filled the gap. Remember last week, we filled the gap on a Friday, right? We had that big pullback on Friday. History likes to repeat itself. Today, we got the pullback and filled the gap on a Thursday. So here on on Qs, right? It's been a slow week. Reason for that being, look what Qs did for 3 days. Nothing. We just sat in this channel for 3 days in between the previous day high and the previous day low. Absolutely nothing, right? So that's why it's been slow. We've been getting a lot of setups. Well, not really, but when our setups occur, either, we got some breakouts, but never a retest. 2 days in a row, we had NVIDIA that was stuck inside bar day. So that's why, right? And then even here on Qs, what do? We gapped up. Look how big this gap is. So today's a really solid day. There's no surprise that we pulled back to our 207.35. Buyer stepped in. But what do we do today? We filled the gap. That's a good day. Market objective, that's a good day. I'll show you a little bit more of a visual. Look at that, right? So we started the week off again. This is 2 weeks in a row, right? We started with this. Last week, we started with this. This is 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. So just be mindful of that. Today was a good day. Today, the market pullback is exactly what you want to see. Now, something I've been saying, I feel like I have not gotten my opportunity here on the 612.80, and I think tomorrow can really be the day. Remember, I've been waiting for this level. Remember, we broke this, but never got a solid retest. We gapped above this week. We gapped above last week. This is the dip buy, kind of like 673 on the SPY, right? This is the dip buy continuation trend. So tomorrow, my A plus opportunity is over 612.80. I'm really looking for this. I've been breaking this down for 2 weeks now. And I even said, I feel like I never really got my shot here on 612.80. We broke through the level, we broke under it, we flirted with it, but we never got a solid break and retest on this level. Never. So coming into tomorrow, really my game plan here, is if we can, reclaim this, I'm looking for a break and retest over 612.80. Now, if we stay under it, I'm hands off. Hands off. Reason for that being, it's because I don't do channels, I don't do zones. Remember, we avoided all this. We avoided all that. All this is channels and zones. Now, you will be looking for pullback longs because we're bullish bias. But what do you know I'm looking for? I want to see the top of this channel, right? I want to see the top of this channel turn into support. We haven't gotten that yet. We haven't gotten that yet. So the 612.80, that's really my best friend going into tomorrow. I'm looking for that today. I ended up playing the pullback long off of 612.80. Yeah, I ended up playing that. Got the pullback here, 612.80. We ended up breaking and retesting under 617. We filled the gap today and then buyer stepped up towards the end of the day. That is super solid. That is market structure. So you're bullish bias on this name. But for me personally, 612.80 going into tomorrow's the A plus trade. Tesla, right? Tesla's back on the radar. At least I hope. But today was a good day on Tesla. Why? What did we do? Filled the gap. Look at that. We filled the gap. There's no coincidence. We filled the gap and then buyer stepped in at the end of the day. It's no coincidence. So I have been saying, as long as we are under, actually I'm going to go here on the weekly just to give you a better visual. So you can see, Tesla was trending higher. It's very unfortunate that, we couldn't hold above here. Remember, like I've been saying, it's been almost a year now since we got a daily candle closure. I guess even a weekly candle closure above this 466. Last week we took 2 shots in a row. It looked promising and we sold off. So it's so crazy how fast things have turned around on Tesla. We were sitting above 466 last week, right? I remember it got up to like 470 something. And then today it closes at 401. That's wild. But that's Tesla, right? We got to expect that. Now, the reason I'm bearish bias on this name under 410 is because, right, you can see we're moving higher. This thing looked promising. But now that we're under all of this, that's a break of structure, right? It could just be a lower low forming. That's exactly what happened. Here, actually this looks better on the weekly, right? You can see this weekly double up here. Strong sellers sitting up here. So I really just see one of these. As we know, history repeats itself. So what happened last time? Price pushed up here. Well, it led to that. It led to that. We're up here again. What can that do now? It can lead to that. That's expected, right? So that being said, this is a break of structure. So tomorrow I'm really looking for a pop and fade off of 410 or a break and retest over 410. Remember, if we're above 410, we're bullish buys. We'll be back in that, but we are bullish buys if we're over 410. But for me, going into tomorrow, my key level here to watch on Tesla, right? It's under this 410. Now, another thing, why I like the shorts under here, I remember this. That's a lot of thin volume. That's a lot of thin volume. So we got the daily candle closure. So I want to see the daily candle open, form, get a pop and fade off that. The wick of the candle of the daily is off of this 410. That's a solid setup. There's nothing in Tesla's way to the downside if this can happen, right? There's nothing in this way. Absolutely nothing. You can see that we ripped all through here. That's a lot of thin volume. We filled the gap today. So Tesla's in play. You know, if it stays under 410, this thing is in play to the downside. If we reclaim 410, you won't be wrong, right? If you just want to skip it, because like I said, if we're in between 466 and 410, technically we are in a gap. But this, I'm definitely looking for that. Even this, I'm looking for that, right? As long as I'm under 410, I'm bearish bias on this name. If we reclaim 410, right? Because you know Tesla can move $20 in a day. Tesla can do his own thing, right? That's a break of structure. This is kind of getting in at the bottom of the range. If we reclaim this, that's a lot of thin volume. So just be patient, you know, read this. But for me personally, if I'm under 410 tomorrow, I'm bearish bias on this name. The video, right? We know we're bullish bias on this name. So today was just a solid day. Today was a solid pullback long day, right? Look at this weekly. Does this look like a name that's bearish on the weekly? Absolutely not, right? We just made all-time highs, I believe, sometime last week, or barely 2 weeks ago. So last week we almost pushed back into it. So this thing is bullish bias. Let's go here on the daily, right? Look at that, bullish bias. So here on the 15-minute, like I said, it's been fairly a slow week. Not a lot going on the tech names, but I've already explained to you why. Qs was just sitting in the range for 3 days. So I'm sorry, yeah, for 3 days. So you can see here on the video, right? 2 days in a row, we didn't do anything. We just did that. We didn't do anything. So today, you know, we ended up getting a break and retest, and this thing pushed lower. But what did that do, right? If you caught this is what I mean when I say the dipper's your friend. You know, if you're able to catch these at the end of the day, or, you know, possibly turn these into swing trades, this is how you get in at the bottom of the range when we get back up here. We already saw this last week on Friday. I'll actually zoom out here on the daily. Remember, we saw this last week on a Friday on a video. I'm just trying to explain to you, right? We did that, and then what did price do this week? Gapped all the way up. Gapped all the way up. So last week, buyer stepped in aggressively at 179.45 and pushed this thing up basically to 200. That's crazy. So same thing, you know, we're bullish bias on the same. We're just looking for the dips. So for me personally, tomorrow, my two setups are right long over 190.10 or a pullback long off of this 184.50. The dip is your friend, right? Now, if we do fall under this this 184.50, I'm hands off. Even though we're bullish bias, remember we avoided this whole channel. We cannot forget that we avoided all this. Why do we want to be in a trade back in that? What's right under this? Another channel. So that being said, for me, the high probability setups is this or this. So 2 key levels tomorrow, 190, 184, and these are solid levels. Both of these are weekly levels. They are weekly levels. So these are really big key levels here. Today you can see at the end of the day during power hour, buyer stepped up, defended this 184.50. So 2 key levels I'm looking to take a trade off of. Like I said, if we fall under 184.50, I'm hands off. Apple, pretty much the same game plan on Apple as it's been literally the last 2 weeks. So remember, Apple's really been the only tech name this entire week that's given us a setup. 2 days in a row it did. Yesterday, I skipped it because I didn't get a deep enough pullback. Today, we didn't get a deep enough pullback. But like I said, I wanted to see this channel turn into support, and that's exactly what we're starting to see. So tomorrow, same game plan on Apple. Looking for that, and then a push up in here. Today, I mean, this is the previous day high. Going into tomorrow, this will be. So I thought, you know, we'd actually make a new all-time higher on Apple. This is the better RR trade, right? You want to be in a trade down here at 271 prior to us getting back to the top of this range. So that being said, on Apple, I'm just looking for a pullback long off of 271.40. If this thing wants to stay super heavy, remember, we ended up breaking, right? We broke this 264.05, but we still haven't got that retest. So this is valid too. So my only 2 key levels that I'm looking to go long off of on Apple is 271.40 or pullback long off of 264.05. AMD. So this one's cooking up. This one is cooking up. Let me break this down thoroughly. So remember, you know, this was a big deal for me. I was looking at this, a bull flag break on the daily time frame. We never got it because we ended up gapping above. Obvious reasons, you know, you watch my live trading session today. This is my no trade zone. I don't want to be in this at all. Just crappy price action in there. I don't want to be in there. But this pullback long towards the end of the day, I love that. I want to see sellers push this thing back into 242.80. This is the A+ buy for me, right? Patient pays. And when I see these things, I'm just seeing them as trades setting up. It doesn't matter if I have to wait 1 day, 2 days, or even a week. This is really my A+ dip buy. This is the bull flag break, right? That is solid. I want to be in a trade down here before we get back up here. We know we're bullish bias on this name. So this tomorrow for me, 242.80, I'm just looking for that. I'm looking for that. If we fall under that, this is pretty much a no trade zone for me. I don't want that. If this thing wants to stay super heavy, then I'm just looking for a pullback long off this 225. Very simple there. Palantir, really nothing going on. Like I said, as long as we're above 169, we're bullish bias on this name. As long as we're above 169, we're bullish bias on this name. Today, solid day. It finished filling the rest of this gap. Remember, a lot of these names gapped up at the end of the week. I mean, at the start of the week. So this thing just ended up filling the rest of this gap. It's still in play. We can see how strong this 171 and 169 is. Very, very strong. I'll go here on the weekly. Right, trying to teach you market structure. What do? we trend higher, consolidation, next leg higher, or next leg lower. So if we fall under this 169, right, consolidation, that is our next leg lower. All right, we're definitely bearish bias on this name. You can see that'd definitely be a bear flag break as well. So this thing is setting up. Don't sleep on this. This thing is definitely setting up. If we get one of these, man, that's big. It's definitely a bear flag break here on the weekly time frame. This would be a breaker structure on the weekly time frame. You can see the last 2 weeks has been very heavy. No surprise, last week it just made all-time highs. It filled its objective, it did its thing. Now we're just looking for that. So as long as it's above 169, we're bullish bias. But if it gives this thing up, I'm definitely open to shorting this thing. If it gives up 169, 100% open. Now that we're done with the main watches, I'll go into the side watches. Hood, right, market structure. So we know as long as we're above 120.45, we're bullish bias. There's no coincidence. We keep seeing wicks down here. There's no coincidence. This thing is in play. It's being held. Buyers are defending this. You can see here. Look at this. Look at these wicks. Buyers are definitely defending this thing. But if we fall under this 120.45, we are bearish bias on this name, and I'm very open to shorting Hood. I'm very open to shorting this thing. Look at that. That is solid. I love the correlation. We'll be under the previous day low. This is a weekly level as well, and a breaker structure level. That's a lot of confluences there for me, so I really do like that. We go here on the weekly. Look at that. All right, give me 1 sec. Trended higher, consolidation, next leg higher. So what are we doing? We're consolidating right now. If this falls under, that's our next leg lower. That is our next leg lower here. That is solid. So I'm definitely looking for this, right? We could target, this structure, bottom of this range here, but this is, right, breaker structure. If we fall under that and retest that, that is definitely a breaker structure here on Hood. So this will be on my close watch tomorrow. This 120.45, a break and retest under that is solid, right? If buyers want to defend this, you can look for a pullback long off this 120.45. As long as we're above this, we are bullish bias. You just got to read the price action. Google, super solid. I still want a deeper pullback on this name. You can clearly see, does this look like a name that's bearish? So you're not looking to short this name. Start of the year, I was trading this name very heavy. I made a lot of money on Google, which is like very random, right? It's a random stock, but Google's a good one. But if I'm teaching you market structure, you're understanding, right? We trended, consolidation, next leg higher. What are we doing now? We're consolidating. You can clearly see that. We're nowhere close to bearish unless we fall under 241.65. You're just looking for pullback longs. So here on Google, you can look for this, right? Or this. Now for me personally, this is the A+ long. That is the A+ long. This is the dip buy, right? Targeting top of this range. Remember, we broke this 256.70, but we never got a retest. Never got a retest. You can also see here, this is a gap to fill as well. The deeper the pullback, the better. So be patient here on Google. There's really nothing up here. We're consolidating. We're consolidating. So there's nothing up there for me. The deeper the pullback, the better. So I'm just looking for either a pullback long off this 268.30 or a pullback long off this 256.70. Amazon, we go here on the weekly. It's kind of expected. A lot of these names today really was filling gaps. Remember, we ended up gapping. This still has a big gap to fill. So I really wouldn't touch this until it's finished filling this gap. And then another thing, let me go here on the weekly. You can see here on Amazon, right? Really wasn't doing anything. Really wasn't doing anything. You want to see, right, a retest of this. That's really what you want to see. So I really wouldn't touch this name until we get back over 242.52, because this is consolidation on the weekly time frame. So you can only imagine what that looks like on the daily and on the lower time frame. You see what I mean? So what do I say? We want to see the top of this range turn into support. This thing does still have some gaps to fill. So it could just be doing that. But for me personally, I'm just hands off on this name until we get over 242.52. Right? There's a lot of other names that's better out there to trade, but this is solid. Targeting here, top of this range. You can see, we are trending. We want to see this range turn into support. So just be patient here on Amazon. It gapped up tremendously. So let it finish this objective. Look at all this. Look at that. Right? It still has to fill all of that. So just be patient here. This thing shot up during earnings. I'll even give you a better visual. Right? We shot up doing earnings. We did that. And then what have we been doing since earnings? This. Literally that. We haven't done anything on Amazon. Nothing. So just be patient on this name. But for me personally, I don't want to touch this until we reclaim this 242.50. So tomorrow's Friday, right? Be safe, be conservative. Don't try and make it all back in a week. Don't try and make it all in one day. It's 0 DTEs. Something I always say is you don't have to trade a 0 DTE. You can always play next week cons. It was a little bit of a slower week. Don't come into tomorrow, trying to force trades, setups. Let our trades come to us. Remember, we are risk managers first before we are traders. So hope you guys had a good week. Having a good week, and I will see you all tomorrow.